Hello everyone. We are making a dragon scale vase. I've started with a plain clear glass vase that I cleaned with isopropyl alcohol and then spray painted with a matte black spray paint. Let that dry, and I will be using UV resin with various chameleon mica powders. I got this like multi-pack from Amazon, but really there are only 4 main colors. Most of the other colors in the pack are like a goldish red shift, which I already have one that I chose. So I feel like I'm getting the best variety that I can. The UV resin that I showed you earlier, I also got from Amazon. So I have 4 little medicine cups, and I put about 10 mLs of the UV resin in each of the cups. That was just an educated guess. I really only used about 5 mLs. Oh, the mica powder just kind of goes everywhere, so be prepared for that. But I ended up using about 5 mLs of each. And then you'll see toward the end what I do with the leftovers. We never waste any type of resin. And I was also just guessing how much mica powder to put in each of the 10 ml cups. I wanted it opaque. I wanted the color to be bold. So I did not put just one little scoop. 2 to 3 little scoops. I know that is super not scientific. So here is the really fun part. This is just a little bit of Dawn dish soap and a little bit of water, maybe a cup or so of water, and just like, I don't know, a pump of the dish soap and a straw. And we're going to be making bubbles. So I'm moving the little medicine cups out of the way because I'm going to be using a UV light to cure the UV resin. I don't feel like holding the light while the UV resin cures, so I have these mug boxes that I'm going to use as props for my UV light, and you'll see that shortly. So, trying to save my gloves, I am just using the little popsicle stick to sort of paint on a relatively thin layer of the UV resin and mica powder mixture. I'm also working in small sections because I've never done this before, and I want to make sure that it doesn't get away from me. So the bigger the bubbles, the bigger the scales will be. So it's completely personal preference. And again, I had never used this technique before, but I've definitely seen it done elsewhere on YouTube. So here is the UV light. And mine has a 2-minute, 3-minute, and 5-minute setting. I believe I tried it for 2 minutes first. Here's a side view. You can kind of see some of the bubbles popping. That's totally fine. But I found out after a few rounds of this that really you only need to do it for about 30 seconds, and that'll cure it enough so you can move on to the next step. And then toward the end, I'll do a full 2-minute cure just to make sure everything's good to go. But I just take a paper towel, a dry paper towel, and sort of blot the area. At this point, I'm not entirely concerned about cleaning up the soap, just more of removing the moisture. But I just keep doing this. I rotate the colors, again, spreading a relatively thin layer. It's okay if some of it drips. Toward the end, you'll see how I kind of patch up some of the spots that didn't turn out the greatest. But there's kind of 2 nice things about this. One, this is abstract art, so we're not trying to make it look like anything realistic. And 2, dragons do not exist. So sorry to burst your bubble on that one. I'll keep my day job. Okay. So guess what? Your dragon scales get to look like whatever you want. So I end up with a mixture of large scales, small scales, just having a good time with this. Part of my motivation for this project was Valentine's Day is coming up, and I've done some other types of vases. I mainly do tumblers, and I did a traditional Valentine's Day tumbler, but I also did an anti-Valentine's Day tumbler. And so I kind of like thinking about like the darker side of Valentine's Day, and I thought, hey, this would make a pretty cool Valentine's Day gift, whether you're pro Valentine's Day or anti Valentine's Day. So this will end up going in the boutique where I take my items for sale. But I'm just rotating around the vase, repeating the same steps over and over, trying to get a good combination of colors right up against each other, trying to not keep anything in any kind of pattern. The different areas are various shapes, so it's really whatever you would want it to be. This did take me, I want to say, over an hour to do the process, but if I were to do it again, then I have a little bit more experience, maybe it would go a little bit faster, but I was not in any hurry. I was really just trying to enjoy the process and have a good time, but also end up with a result that I was happy with and not just, completely messing around. I intentionally left the bottom of this vase just plain black. I didn't want the texture of the scales to affect the way that this sat on a flat surface. Alright, so that was my last main patch. At this point, I'm just looking at any areas that need to be cleaned up. Used my X-Acto knife to get off anything that was kind of creeping toward the bottom. And then any parts that I wasn't really happy with, I would just go back over with a little bit more and just redo that little area. Again, the nice thing here is we're not looking for any crisp, clean lines. It can be whatever you want it to be. So this was really easy to kind of patch up, again, any spots that just didn't have the defined scales I was looking for. So here's where I'm going to just give it a good full cure for about 2 minutes and let it cool off a little. It wasn't really that hot, but just let it cool. And I did rinse that off really good in my sink with water just to get all the soap off and let it dry. So I'm taking the leftover UV resin and just pouring them into, these are like cabochon molds, and I'm attempting to make magnets out of them, but even after I thought I fully cured them, they were still really sticky on the outside, and one of them ended up having a dent on the top of it, so I don't know, maybe I just need to clean them off really good with alcohol or something, but at this point, they're just kind of tossed to the side, and I'll come back to those later. But anyway, so I gave it a good rinse, let it dry, and then here it is before its first coat of resin. So I really wasn't sure how much resin I would need. This is not UV resin. This is actually a fast set epoxy resin. I absolutely love it. It's from Counterculture DIY. I wasn't sure how much resin I would need because I wasn't sure how it would settle in all the little crevices. But what I ended up doing was I put a pretty good coat on there, probably a good maybe 20 to 30 mLs, but I did not want it to pool into the crevices. So I took my gloved hand and I wiped off as much excess as I could. And here it is after the first coat's been applied and I gave it a good torch. You can tell there's still a lot of texture to it. Once this layer cures, I will sand it. See, there's like little pokey bits sticking up. So I gave it a good sand with an 80 grit sanding block. Cleaned it off with 91% isopropyl alcohol. And then here is the final coat of epoxy resin. Back up just for a minute. I did do a second thin coat of that epoxy resin before I sanded. But this is the final coat. I don't want to, load this up too much. Again, I'm trying to wipe off as much excess as I can. I want, a nice glossy finish, but I'm not looking for complete smoothness. I am okay with some texture. This is a dragon scale vase, so I think a little texture just kind of adds to the character. But I definitely didn't want anything pokey or sharp. So I will let this fully cure, and then I will just clean up the top rim. If there's anything I need to scrape off with my craft knife, I will do that, and then it will be good to go. So here is the final result. I am so happy with it. It could also pass for maybe like a coral reef or another planet. I don't know. But I like dragon scales. So, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.